there are clearly some obvious issues around capacity, such as the small number of AMs that we have here, which by any standards is significantly low, and that presents challenge in terms of the number of backbenchers and servicing what remains a large number of committees and legislative roles. So there's that side of it. But equally, there's the management of assembly business, which currently we think is not used to its full capacity and could be maximised. And then there's the issue of quality and calibre of members. Now, that's a much more delicate issue, obviously, because it's difficult to suggest to anyone that maybe the quality of members we have here in Cardiff is not as good as it should be. But I think there are issues around diversity. And I don't just mean diversity of representation, I mean diversity of background and experience. It doesn't help us as well. So the report that we wrote tried to cover as many of those issues as we possibly could.
And there's quite a few issues covered there. What do you propose to do about them? What were your recommendations there?
Well, we talked about some things that could be put in place immediately, and we sort of set in motion some ideas which, whilst are not fully developed, are probably worth thinking about as potential future innovations. One of them was Assembly Associates. So that was raised in the conference organised today as well, about trying to draw in people to the work of the Assembly, and especially its committees, who are not elected politicians. Now, there are a lot of problems with that as well. Nobody's hiding from that. But I think given we are unlikely to see a change in numbers in the immediate or possibly even in the medium term future, we need to think imaginatively about how we can boost capacity and calibre and expertise. So the Assembly Associates idea came actually from the independent remuneration panel that Sir Roger Jones chaired some years ago, and it was a way of looking at where you could build a satellite tier of expertise around the committees to ensure that there was sufficient knowledge and scrutiny. We also talked about things like overhang seats, which happen in some states that use the AMS system and so on. But I think ultimately we all know that unless we address the systemic problem of the small number of AMs, we really are facing an uphill battle to improve scrutiny and therefore to improve performance.
Okay, the Silk Commission's latest report recommended that an increase in Assembly members could be feasible to improve the scrutiny capacity of the Assembly. What are the current barriers stopping the increase in Assembly members, considering that there's quite a lot of consensus developing around it?
Well, there's consensus amongst all of us who study devolution and are involved. There's certainly not a consensus amongst the population for more AMs. There may be if there is a full wholesale review of all elected politicians, and that's where the key lies, because clearly the Williams Commission on Public Service Delivery has talked about mergers and regionalisation effectively, and that would almost inevitably involve a smaller number of councillors at local government level. We know that the plans to reduce the number of MPs at Westminster have been shelved for now, but that will come back depending on who wins next year's UK general election. So I think if we're serious, we need to look at this in the round, really, and look at the whole package of elected representatives that we have. Then we might win the intellectual debate with the public over the appropriate number of AMs in this place, because that's where the vast majority of real public services are delivered. But I do think we need to look beyond that as well and actually talk about the whole map of capacity, so that we talk about assembly business, we talk about civil society, we talk about more effective committees and scrutiny rather than just hone in on one aspect.
Great. Thank you very much.